Hey, how y'all doing? We back again for another show of the It Factor. I'm your host, Jeremy Robinson. Today I got my friend, Angela. How you doing today, man? Introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is Angela Ojimba. Um, I am a second year in pharmacy school. My hometown is Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, the real Boston though. Okay, hard.
It's a real boss. Ain't the other side over there, the other people,
Yeah,
you know.
because people be from neighboring cities and then swearing they're from Boston. I'm like, no, honey,
Like,
what neighborhood are you from?
where you from? Really? That's your
Okay.
area code? Nah, that ain't you. So yeah, man, I'll go ahead. I'm gonna start with actually, man. So what made you stay in Boston to go to Northeastern University?
Yeah, so growing up, I actually did this program called Balfour Academy.
Mm.
It's a 6-year program where you start your summer going into 7th grade. And it's a academic program where you're taking classes for half the day. In the second half, you do sports. And then in your later years, from 10th to 12th grade, you do SAT prep. And that program is based on Northeastern's campus. It was founded by someone who went to Northeastern. So I was on Northeastern's campus a lot throughout my childhood. And ultimately, it was the school that was able to like give me the most money. And then also post high school, and like not too many people, unless you're like close to me, know this, but like I didn't have plans of going to college, right? I had lost my brother during high school to the later years and just like completely said forget everything, right? And like I was grateful that I was able to enter a program called Foundation Year, that essentially kind of gives people a second chance. And everybody comes into Foundation Year from different walks of life and like different reasons. But for me, I needed to be able to really just figure out like what I wanted to do and prepare myself into the best situation, because my high school grades in those later years, I just fell off. So through that, that program is at Northeastern. So I was like, okay, let me stay in Boston and really just like figure things out. So it was a combination of, I was already exposed to the campus. When I found out about the program there, I was like, okay, I'm already used to the people here, whatever. So I was like, let me stay in Boston for a little longer.
And I respect that because I mean, even when I met you, I know like you probably have dealt with adversity, but you fought through it still. Like you still grinded it out, and like a lot of people that was in that foundational year there at Northeastern that actually finished like are still there but doing well at Northeastern. So I thought that was a good thing. Now I was like, why we ain't got that down south? Like people really need that because I feel like a lot of young Black people, man, really benefit from that. Like especially down here, like a lot of people would be in a like impoverished area or something like that, or even in a good area and say, I ain't going to school. I don't want to go to school, or something may have happened to them. They like, I'm not going. But with that foundation year, it's like, hey, let me see if this for me first.
Yeah.
Oh, y'all gonna give me money to go? Because I hear some of you guys' stories and I'll be like, wow, that's amazing. Like that's what drew me in, even knowing more about you, because I was like, that's amazing. She out here grinding. Then your cousin will tell me about you, and I was like, hey, I like that, man. And I like how you study and you prepare for certain things. And I was like, Angie gonna go a long way. I already know. So I'm proud of what you're doing now, man. So that's why I had to pull you on the show. So like, what made you want to go into pharmacy?
Yeah, so for me, I didn't know that I was going to really go into pharmacy until my first year was undeclared. So my first exposure to pharmacy was from my younger brother, who is now passed, and he was in a psychiatric hospital for some period of time. And that was the first time I was able to see a pharmacist in a different setting in retail, right? So in my head, like growing up beforehand, the only thing I thought of a pharmacist was like CVS, Walgreens, this traditional like retail setting. Like
Yeah.
that's it. So when I was exposed to a pharmacist in that psychiatric setting and they were clinical pharmacists, I was like, I didn't even know you guys existed.
Mm-hmm.
And both of my parents are immigrants. My dad's Haitian, my dad's Nigerian and my mom Haitian. And they're not familiar with a lot of the medications. They're not familiar with the medical system. So throughout that process, I would literally, when they're trying to like increase his dose on the medication or change into something else, me at that young age, I was probably in 10th grade or 11th grade. And I would have to like look up the medications, like see what some of the side effects are, like all those things, like educate my parents, like, okay, like should we make this decision? And granted, I'm not saying this advice to anybody to do this, but just to give us a little bit of a more informed background on like what the medical professionals are doing. So that was like my first initial exposure. And then in that first year at Northeastern through foundation year, my mom was telling me like, oh, well, Northeastern has a pharmacy program. She was like, oh, you should check it out, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of took that initiative. I looked into the curriculum. I was always just a math and science person. And throughout that, I was struggling between, I had my math professors, my calc professor kept telling me, go into engineering, like, you know, you'll thrive, like you're good at math, whatever. But I was like,
nah.
Oh yeah, it was one of those things where like you could be good at something, but if you're not passionate about it, it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? So I was like, I like more like the chemistry side, and I met with a couple of the faculty from the pharmacy school, and I was just like, oh, this is something that I am interested in doing. The classes seemed amazing. I was like, of course I want to learn everything about drugs. Like I want to go into like a hospital setting, et cetera, et cetera. So a combination of just wanting to stay in the area of a mixture of sciences and maths, and then having that first exposure from my brother was a combination of how I ended up going into pharmacy.
All right. So you had a good journey there, like because I think about your journey as the same with me with computer science. Like I was like, wait a minute, like I'm all right with this stuff. Like I remember taking my PS2 apart, and I actually was like unsuccessful putting it back together. But I was sitting there like, hey, I wonder what made this work, or what made this do this. And then once I got to go to college, I actually got to make a video game. And it made me think back at that time, like, wow, I wish I knew this back then. Not saying I could have rebuilt it, but I knew what went into like making the game system and making certain video games. So I was like, wow, I actually like this. This is actually drawing me in, you know. So I feel you on that. But that's amazing how you explain that, like, because I ain't never heard nobody break it down like that, and I didn't know before this that pharmacists work inside the hospital as well. I didn't know that. But that's cool. So, like, how is pharmacy school, and what are some challenges you face?
So pharmacy school, we have like a love-hate relationship, you know, when you love something so much, but sometimes it's a very humbling experience, because you can think you are the smartest person in the world. You can think that you have your studying methods down packed. Pharmacy will humble you like this, okay? And that's something that I have constantly learned because, you know, we're not all good at everything. So like you'll have those classes where you're like excelling and you're like, oh, word, like smooth, I got this. And those other classes where you're really you're in the library like grinding out hours because it's like it's taking you a little bit longer to grasp those concepts. So pharmacy school, I love it. I feel as though like as I progress within my years, every class I take, it makes me fall in love more and more with the profession. So I'm like, okay, it reassures me like I am in the right place.
Doing
like,
the right thing, right?
Exactly. I've chosen the right path for me to go down. Like this is for me.
You're like, it's not working. It's working. I'm good. It's working. You know, we have to tell ourselves that. That's even when I was school up there. I was like, this is hard, but it's gonna be okay. We're gonna do this thing, man. We're gonna do something. So we're gonna figure something out so we can get it done. You know? So I was happy about that, man. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Man. So why is it important for Blacks to go into a field like pharmacy or the medical field, engineering, tech, anything? You know, how do you feel?
It really comes down when as it relates to medicine is really that representation is really important because of comfortability and like for us to be able to have our medical diagnoses be on the same level of importance as our white counterparts is essential because, you know, there are medical doctors who would diagnose their Black patients who have the same exact diagnosis differently and treat them differently than their white counterpart. And that then later on leads to like further health problems and then ultimately death for some patients. And it's crucial that we have people who are already Black within the field help us treat other Black Americans because a lot of times, Blacks who go into medicine, they go into underserved communities where we have a high population of Black and brown people, right? And then we're able to like better help us and really educate us more because a lot of times it is that gap between like comfort. I've had times where there are patients who had told me, this is working like a retail setting, that they didn't want me to help them. You know what I'm saying? Like that was something that was new to me. I'm just like, what? I mean, I'm gonna do the same thing for you that the next person's about to do. But I mean, if it makes you feel more comfortable, I mean, I guess like, okay, that's fine for you. But I really do think that it's important to have more Blacks in medicine. And like, I feel as though like growing up, I didn't see enough Black doctors. I didn't see enough Black pharmacists. I didn't even, that exposure wasn't even fully there for me, you know what I'm saying? And I wish that it had been. And that's why like I want to make sure that like I am doing my part to ensure that like at a younger age we're able to see more Blacks in medicine and just STEM in general, because we are a talented group of people, and it ultimately comes down to like when given the access and opportunity, we will excel no matter what. You know what I mean? So I really think
we're gonna adapt to anything. You know, that's our people, man. That's in our history. We adapt to anything that's thrown at. But it's crazy that you say all that to say. You know, my mom was misdiagnosed by like a doctor saying that she had diabetes, like when she was like probably like her younger years, and she like took the medicine or whatever. And thank God she's still living, but she has to now deal with renal kidney failure. So now she's had to take dialysis and things of that nature. And it's like, thank God I can still take her places, we still do things, but it has slowed her down a little bit. And it's like, dang, from that doctor misdiagnosing you, this is what happened. Like, and it's like, now it ain't even no diabetes. Like, you never had it. It's like doctors telling you, yeah, you never had it. You know, and they don't know what they can do for you. And it's like, I could file a lawsuit, but what's gonna save my life? Like, you're never gonna be able to give me my kidneys back. You know, like, so that was the thing she always told me to focus on. Like, no, I'm not in medicine, but I'm glad I have a friend like you, because I darn sure reach out and be like, Angela, they're trying to make me take this. You ever heard about this? We can look it up together or something like that. And I feel like our people do need to be educated on what's going inside of their body. That's even with what another question I'm gonna get into. Like, even with this virus, like, it's like they're saying they're getting a vaccine fast and stuff. I don't believe in it. I'm being honest with you. I'm like, nah, y'all rushing it too fast. Nah, that sounds kind of corny. That's some BS right there. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how are you gonna just say this is gonna cure you? And it's like, in the past we was told that. So like, what's up? Like, so that's what I kind of want to know. So I'm just trying to figure out now what's gonna happen with that. So I would say, what's your favorite space to work in, outpatient or inpatient?
My favorite, I would say, it's slightly, I think they're kind of like somewhere like around the same level, but I like inpatient a little bit more. And that's simply because I have aspirations of being a clinical pharmacist. So like that hospital setting is where I would be. But I spent a lot of my time, and before COVID, I was working in both settings. I was working in outpatient and working in inpatient. And it was just amazing. I think they offer two completely different things. Outpatients, you definitely are faced with more in terms of being an intern in outpatient versus actually at the pharmacist level. But I think that with you definitely work quick on your feet. But in outpatient, which is like the traditional like retail setting, you are forced to like understand and deal with conflict in that moment, because you have patients who come to you with about an issue, and you need to be able to troubleshoot them and be able to help them out within like moments. So it's definitely requires a lot of like active problem solving. And when I was working in inpatient at a local hospital in Boston, I'm actually no longer working there as of like 2-3 weeks ago, because I have to go on my next like co-op experience. But I spent like half of my time there compounding, and I love compounding. So that involves like making syringes, and I was focused in the pediatric department. So making syringes, making creams, ointments, all those medications for patients. And it just like, for me, that's my safe space. Like, you just zone out and you're like, okay, like I love it here. In inpatient, you're working more closely with nurses. So when I'm delivering meds to the floors, I'm making sure that the nurses have their medications on time. If they need to request a new dose, change it. I'm kind of that like middle person between the nurses and the pharmacists. So it's a completely different role, but I think they're both extremely fulfilling. But I got a little bit more love for the inpatient side.
I seen on your IG. I'd be looking, I'm like, what Angie doing today? I look, and I was like, saw you making something else. Like, that's cool. I'm gonna have to tell her to send me some of that right there. I might need it. But yeah, I was sitting there like, that's amazing, man, to have that in your hand on experience, man. I think that's the best thing ever. So like you said before, how has Corona, kind of affected you? Like what has it like kind of, I would say, how is it different? Like what have you had to deal with since the outbreak of Corona?
I would say I could, since I worked in both settings, I'll say like how it kind of affected me in both of those. So to first address my like outpatient setting, I was working at a pharmacy within a university,
Mhm.
and as soon as the outbreak hit, the pharmacy closed down for a little bit because they only serve that university's like students, faculty, and affiliates. So they closed down for a little bit, and then we reopened up. We had extremely limited hours, and I was already per diem slash part time at that pharmacy,
Mhm.
and because they had low hours and we had like full time staff, um, I felt bad that I already was working at a hospital, and I was just like, I would rather relieve my hours and give it to the other full time staff who have like families that they're supporting. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't
Mhm.
need the money. I don't need the money, and I feel like let me give those hours to somebody who actually needs it more.
Right.
So I was then like kind of like just taking off the schedule for now, just to be able to allow them to get hours because right now a lot of the my coworkers there, they're working like once or twice a week, and the pharmacy is open like such limited hours. So it completely like in regard to that change the dynamic. We have the shields in front now, like the entire culture of the pharmacy. It's so different. It feels different.
Life has changed.
Yes, no, literally, like it's crazy. Like this is our new normal for the foreseeable future, which is crazy.
Wearing a mask every day. Then
Yeah.
people always like, you can't breathe in a mask. This is going on. It's like, hey man, I'm still gonna wear the mask.
It's
If I die, I die. At least I die, with a mask on. I guess I don't know. And it's kind of one of those things that I feel like we just have to get used to. But I do know it's a light at the end of the tunnel. I do know that. I'm like, I still have faith we gonna be good. But it's just one of those humbling moments to say, like I said earlier, how are we gonna adapt to this situation and
yeah,
how are we gonna move on in a positive fashion than versus saying we can do all this, this is gonna happen, instead of thinking what's the worst can happen, also think about what's the best that can happen out of it. Because there's some good things that happen out of the coronavirus. So I would definitely say that I do the show even differently now. I was able to tap into some of my friends outside of people and then find out about Zoom. You know,
yeah.
beyond the buffering, it was like, oh, I can do this. But that's even work from home for my company. Me being a software developer, thank God I was able to work from home and not have a problem. And I can reach out to anybody on my team, stuff like that. But it is people that they want to rush and go back to the office, and I was like, I don't understand why. But then I kind of understood over time. You're like, y'all got family in the house. Like I'm a young guy. I just bought my crib. This is me and my girl here. Like it's no problem. Like we don't have no problems. But if we got a whole family and kids, it's kind of gonna be a. And I
It,
respect you for what you did too, as well. Like that's a big moment to say. I really don't need this money. I love the experience, but let me go and take a back end on this so I can look out for these people. That
yeah.
means a lot right there. So, what's your it factor, man? Why you do what you do?
Part of why I do what I do is really motivated and inspired by like my late younger brother because he passed away at 14 years old, but
Mhm.
at just 14, this dude was like wise beyond his years, right? And he was a straight A student at one of the exam schools in Boston, BLS for anybody who's from Boston. And he showed me that you can be like that straight A student and also be like the chill person, like
Mhm.
everybody go like those are not mutually exclusive. You know what I'm saying? Like he had shown me that, and like he was investing in stocks at such a young age, just everything. And his passion and drive has really was just like, Angela, like what you need to live through, like have him live through you and the rest of your days, and really just like the way he like thought and approached life is the same way you need to do that, like in memory of him. As well as just like understanding how important it is just for like me to be a Black woman in medicine.
Mhm.
I really, and that's why as the pandemic hit, it definitely postponed postpone some of those plans that I had. But to be able to go back to high schools, like I have plans of like opening up a nonprofit for young Black boys and girls within the city. And I really want to make sure that we have that exposure to not only just like pharmacy and medicine, but STEM as a whole. I feel like there are a lot of like high school students who like don't fully understand the various roles you can go down within each profession because we're not exposed to those things.
Those are things that we can do. And I
Yeah.
actually would love to help you out with that, man. You know, I'm a phone call away, text message away. Like, I like talking to you. We talking all type of ways. They'll be like, I'm gonna see how Angela's doing, da, da, da. But anything you ever doing, man, just kind of let me know. And I dang sure like help you out. Because like you say, I mean, that's even why I started the show. Our people need to see different people. That's even why I reached out. He was like, I'm not fully STEM, but I'm like, a lot of people have said that. I'm like, look, man, I started off as a STEM show, but I actually can have anybody and everybody on here. But I want to keep it to where it's like our people can see you can be more than what you just see on TV or what you just see. Like, oh, he's a businessman. How I do that? You know, let me tell you the way of how you can do it. Let me tell you how you can flip it to doing something that you really want to do. So I thank you for this episode, man. I got a few more questions. How's it balancing work and pharmacy school? Like, say, like from the beginning to like now.
Yeah, just to reiterate, you said how has it been working?
Yeah, like working and going to school.
Okay. Yeah, it is definitely one of those things where time management, people always talk about time management, right? But it's one of those things I feel as though it's a constant learning process. Trying to balance school, working, and also trying to maintain like what little piece of a social life you can have. It definitely has its challenges, but I think like with each moment, like the way I approach things is just kind of understanding like, okay, take it little by little, because one thing that I will always like advocate for is like if you have the opportunity to, I would always advise you, like if you're in pharmacy, to work, because I feel as though I'm in the classroom, right? But then when I'm at the hospital, I'm now, or even when I'm working at the retail pharmacy, I'm able to see those same medications that I'm using in class, like in practice, in real life, how they're diagnosing them actually at work. And it really helps draw those connections, and then strengthens my knowledge so that now when I have like my clinical applications class, I now have that background because of that exposure at work to be able to apply it better and really like utilize it to its full potential. So, you know, sometimes it is a challenge, and in pharmacy school, they actually don't advise us to work more than like 15 hours a week. So like typically a lot of us work per diem. So I'm working literally at the hospital, it was every other weekend, and you're just working like 16 hours. So you're not really working much, but I do think that it gives you a nice like break. Because sometimes like on the weekend, if you have some free times, you don't really want to work. Like you want to just take like a mental break to just chill, like see people you haven't seen in a little bit, like just literally relax. So yeah, it's I think it's really good to work while you're in pharmacy school, and sometimes it does feel a little overwhelming at times, but you know, ultimately at the end of the day, like, all right, this is like what you need to do, and like it's these critical moments that'll help you later on.
Because I mean, even though I even could think back to when I was in school and I did my internships and how much I take from that now at work. And it's like, and when I was doing that and I go away for the summer, like my first summer, my cousin actually looked out for me. I got a job at NASA and I went to Alabama. And I was at first driving there. I'm like, man, I'm going to be here by myself and none of my friends. Da, da, da. Then once I started seeing the experience, then I saw the money. I was like, hey, you know, let me stay here, you know. And then I got to meet people, and there's still people that's in my life to this day that kind of guide me in certain things in the field. And it was like the experience I got from an internship. I'm so thankful for that because it made me the person I am today. So like, yeah, I had to sacrifice my summers, but it paid off. Like, and it's still paying off. So that sacrifice gonna pay off big. That's all. I'm just saying it to say like it's gonna pay off. And a lot of us students, they don't see it. A lot of people in high school, they don't see it, middle school, but it pays off. Like school pays off because it's gonna take you a long way. Like, and that's not the only thing. Like a lot of people see us in the class and they're like, oh, they taking these hard classes and this going on. It's like, no, it's gonna pay off. I promise you. Now it's gonna be hard, but it's gonna pay off. You know. So,
you might not see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's there.
It's there. One day you might stay up to 4 a.m. studying for that test only to make a 70, but you did it. Look at you. You know.
For real.
Many times, man. So, like, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, so like in the next like 5 years, like where do you see yourself like taking the show, or where do you see the show then?
So next 5 years, I will actually. This the first time. Let me see. Let me think. What's it? I actually see the show keep growing. Have it. Not even saying now. I got my friend. He's a media person, and his crew like does my show, like edit everything and stuff like that. But I hope to have like a channel for some of the shows, the other shows that he like work, and we can do all type of stuff together. I also want to bring you guys back to, hopefully it's in a good setting where we can be face to face and
Yeah.
having me like fly people out, have them meet each other and talk on some of these issues we have in the Black community and the fields that we're in. So that's why I see the show just growing. It's kind of like the Breakfast Club, and kind of like getting, instead of being like rappers and entertainers all the time, it could be like people in the field so that young people can see it and older people can see like, wow, that guy made a change. I'm like, no, we made a change. I actually started this. So I just wanted to grow and just basically just keep it going, man, and try to get as much help as I can and help as much people as I can. So that's my main thing.
That's dope. That's dope. No, I definitely like. I love the shows. Like, I love the fact that you created this show. Like, I'm excited to see what happens later on, and like really see it grow to like the impact that it'll have. That's dope.
Thank you, man. You also episode 20, man. So when I get my t-shirts, I gotta ship them to you, because you out here in these streets. That's all right for me, man. Thank you so much for helping me today. So do you have anything you want to shout out? Anybody?
Oh yeah, I'll shout out my pharmacy page. I recently started it like the end of last year. It's at the Locked Pharmacist. You will hear the daily life and struggles of me as a pharmacy student until I graduate. um, but yeah, no,
Don't get them the nitty gritty, man. Be like, look, this is what it is. This is what it ain't. But no, thank you, man. I love you, man, and look forward to talking to you soon. And have a great day.
you too. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Mhm.